What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Guarani Vision. Welcome to the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me as always are Federico Perez, Maria Britos, and Ralph Hanna. And guys, we're starting to get into the tail end of the league season. We might have a break. Actually, no, we don't actually have a break because we have international season coming up. Obviously, we have some big news happening in the country where we saw call-ups being made for the upcoming World Cup qualifiers for Brazil and Uruguay. Obviously, we'll be talking about that. We still have teams in both the Libertadores and the Sudamericana looking to contend and qualify to the next round of both those competitions. And finally, we have crowned a champion in Paraguay. Some of us got it right. We're going to mention who afterwards, but let's go straight into it, guys. I'm really excited. Let's go all the way to the motherland, to Fede Perez. Fede, how are you, man?
I'm good, Roberto. Who was it that got it right? That was only you, or was it somebody else?
I don't know.
It sounds like you're just bragging about it.
It was
like,
me.
It
was me too. I said it.
It was the guys with the R's in their names. That's what it was.
So it was Rob too. Good for you guys. Good for you guys. Well, I'm happy about Libertad. It's been a while since we've had another team besides Olimpia or Cerro Porteño winning a championship, so it's big on them, even though it was kind of weird, right? Both of the teams that were trying to get to that first spot losing their games. Well, it was kind of strange the way it kind of handled it out itself, but we're obviously going to talk a little bit about that. Obviously, it's a very important week also in Libertadores and Sudamericana for our Paraguayan teams. It's going to be, let's see who is going to survive this week. I mean, that's what we're going to talk about, the preview of their games, who has chances, who has it really tough this week, and obviously warming up with the Albirroja, who are all already practicing. The guys from the national team are already under the coach Berizzo's wings. They're already practicing here in the country. Players are coming by. We have so much ahead of us in the next month that's coming up. May is almost over, and with it also the Apertura here in Paraguay. So much to talk about on this a new episode of Guarani Vision. Hi to everyone, Roberto.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all heating up, and let's go straight to Miami. Let's go to obviously the man that got it right in his predictions. Go to Ralph Hanna. Ralph, I mean, obviously the European season is almost done. Obviously, we don't like to debate as much as what's going on with Gareth Southgate and his England side, but hey, at least we can debate here for Berizzo's team heading into the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, here we go. It's a big time for everybody, right? We got Copa America, World Cup qualifiers. The guys in Europe have European Championship. Talking about Europe, let's mention one player who won't be called up because he's retired himself from the national team, which is Edgar Barreto. But he managed to get his club in Holland, and I'm going to destroy the pronunciation, but I think it's Nijmegen. He got them promoted to the top division. He's a great central midfielder, played in Serie A a lot. He was in the 2010 World Cup, 2006 World Cup as well. But he retired from the national team, so he won't be there, unfortunately, but congrats to him. And congrats to everybody, all the players in Europe that have had a tough, long season. I mean, because of the pandemic and then having to, put all the fixtures in. I think a lot of players are very tired, and maybe we'll talk about that too, about some players that aren't coming to the national team. So yeah, a lot to talk about. And one thing before I go about Libertad and Apertura, a few people have been asking me on Twitter. They said, okay, but what's the Apertura? What's the Clausura? What does this mean? Because this is obviously not the same as we have in the European season. So just for people who maybe weren't sure, the Apertura is like the opening season, which is one short season, and then we're going to move into the Clausura in about a month or so, which will be the closing season. But both seasons are equal weight, and the champion is crowned an official champion of Paraguay, which since 2008 has been the case. In previous years, the winner of the Apertura and the Clausura played like a playoff grand final to decide who's the champion, but that doesn't happen anymore. So Libertad have won this first league season, and it means they've qualified for the 2022 Libertadores, which is like a huge bonus for those teams that can win this tournament. They have kind of 6 months of preparation and financial security because they know they're in next year's competition. That said, for the teams that maybe don't win Apertura or they have supposedly nothing to play for in this final week, they do, because all the points you get in the whole year are still very important for both relegation and for qualification for things like Sudamericana or even Libertadores. Because if you don't win either championship, but you get enough points, you can also go to Libertadores. So that's like a quick rundown, because a few people were asking me on Twitter about how our system works in Paraguay.
Perfect crash course lesson, Ralph. I appreciate it. Let's go finally to Maria. I mean, we've been talking about league action, Libertadores, and we're going to mention it tonight. But I think starting after next week and for a couple of weeks, actually, because, we're going straight into World Cup qualifiers and Copa America, I think it's time to change that chip and like immediately talk about Paraguay, which is exciting, I think, because it gives us a chance to now see the best Paraguayan players that we've been accustomed to seeing in Europe and all across the world, especially in our local leagues, now do it for their national team.
Yeah, you're totally right, Roberto. I love this time of year. I love the international breaks, again, to see our national team performing. It's one of my favorite things about soccer in general, football. Yeah, like we talked about, we mentioned a little bit, some call-ups from the international side, and some surprising newcomers coming into the national team, and some that are not coming for different reasons. And one of them is the guy that I've been rooting for, that I've been wanting to come and make a good performance in the national team, but for personal reasons, it seems he's not going to come. And it's that player is Tony Sanabria, who Berizzo mentioned in his press conference that he's not going to come because he talked to him and there were some issues. I'm not sure what's going on with him, but he decided not to opt out of this time around. But hopefully, whatever happens, he comes back around and he can come into the next time that we have international breaks. But other than that, congrats to Libertad. I think I already congratulated them last time around, but congrats again. This is official. It's been a good season, Apertura, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Finally, they get to go to the Libertadores that they suffered so much not qualifying for, and I think they saw an opportunity to win this Apertura and get that chance to play in the Libertadores, which is what they really wanted for a while. But yeah, let's get to it, guys.
Let's get to it. I love the energy. And we'll go straight into the World Cup qualifiers, because obviously we saw Eduardo Berizzo make his list of call-ups. Only the players that are playing abroad, though. But even then, it is a huge list. And we do see some familiar names, as always, but we do see some new names. 3 names, to be exact. We have Juan Espinola of Godoy Cruz, the third choice goalkeeper, at least on this list. Gabriel Avalos from Argentinos Juniors, who's had quite a long career, you would say, in Paraguay, has played quite some time in the lower leagues and on lesser known teams, and now gets his first call up, I think at the age of 30 or 29, one of those ages. And David Martinez, a player that has done so well so far at River Plate. I was actually speaking to a lot of Argentine colleagues, and they say, this guy has been one of their best players this year and performing in the Libertadores in the local league. He makes the list because of his mother. His mother is Paraguayan. Therefore, he was able to get the citizenship and becomes the newest player on Berizzo's list. Fede, I'm going to go to you on this one, because I think looking at this list, we do see some obvious names. I think, yes, it was surprising to not see Antonio Sanabria, especially since we saw him also play on the weekend. So we don't know what the personal reasons are. I don't know what it could be, because we know that, on any given team, if you're on that form, what he was doing at Torino, he should get a call up. But aside from that, what are your immediate reactions to this list, especially with the newcomers like David Martinez, Avalos, and Juan Espinola making the call-ups?
Well, yeah. If you look at those 3 names, 2 of those names, I think, come into the squad to fill in something that was missing, right? I mean, we have an injured forward, which is Lescano. He was called up usually lately. Raul Bobadilla was on the last list. He's barely playing in Brazil. He hasn't made that many goals lately. So we have a problem there in forwards. Federico Santander, who also plays in Europe, didn't have a good season. Just to compare somebody to Tony Sanabria, right, who is not on this list. So he was going to have to look for another forward outside of Paraguay. I think there are going to be a couple of forwards from the Paraguayan league that are going to be called up in the next couple of days. But this name, Gabriel Avalos, I mean, this is a surprise in my side, because like you said, this is going to be his first game. He's not that young. I mean, but you are taking a player that's scoring, and in the forward, you kind of need that, right? You need a player that has a couple of chances in the game and takes advantage of them. And you kind of need that forward that can adjust to the way the Paraguayan play, the Paraguayan team also plays, because like I always say, I think the forward, the number 9 in this team, that because of the way that Berizzo likes to play, is probably the player that has to suffer the most, is the one that has to sacrifice the most, and probably the player that has the less chances in front of the goal, because you have Almirón beside you, who is the star of the team, because you have Angel Romero, who also takes a lot of shots and a lot of responsibility on this offensive team. So let's see how many chances Gabriel Avalos really has, because there are a lot of other names that jump to mind before him, maybe even in the preference of Berizzo. We haven't seen much of Brian Samudio, and he's always been called up. But this is the forward that also plays in the Turkish league. He's been playing in Europe. He's played a couple of friendlies at the start of Berizzo's era, but we haven't seen him in the qualifiers yet. We don't know what he can bring to the team. We haven't seen much of Carlos Gonzalez either. And we're talking about a guy that we've mentioned before in other episodes, because he played the Clubs World Cup. So he's had big tournaments lately. I think he's had a phenomenal season, maybe not scoring as much as he would have liked, but he changed up the team. He changed up from one team to another. He went to a bigger team in Mexico, and I think this is a big opportunity for him, mainly because Lescano's not going to be there. You know, I'm just looking at the forwards, and I'm just looking at the player at the one of the spots in the team where we do have some problems. And then I'm really happy about the comeback of Robert Pires da Mota in midfield. I think this is a player, or especially because of the style of player that he is, that's going to fit in just perfect and is going to bring a solution even to that midfield, just because we've always talked about this also. We kind of need an aggressive defensive midfielder like him. Jorge Morel played in that role for a couple of games, and I think the team settled in a lot better, felt a lot more comfortable with that kind of midfield in there. So I'm happy for him that he's coming back also, you know, because he's going to probably be tested out in these games, and you're going to need defensive players to play against the games that the teams that we're going to go up against. And then you have these newcomers. I mean, they're going to really need to step it up. They're really going to need to show up their level, because they're taking up spots for other players, I think. You know, David Martinez, I mean, is he going to come in like Jimenez did, like Gaston Jimenez did, and just right away be a starter? Or is he going to build up some momentum and put him in when he thinks that he can be useful? I think Berizzo is going to put him in, because he's already shown that he already showed us that with Gaston Jimenez, like I was just mentioning. So I think there's going to be no surprise there if he puts him in one of these two games, maybe as a left back or maybe as a center back, because he can play in both positions, and he's really good with the ball in his feet, which is something that Berizzo loves from his defense. He loves his players on defense to be quick with his feet, to be the first pass back there, and that's why Junior Alonso is one of the players that touches the most the ball on this Paraguayan team. So I think Martinez also fits in that role that Berizzo likes of the midfields. So you know, just thinking out loud and just talking about it, I think Berizzo's just trying to find the pieces that are missing to his puzzle. You know. And I hope he also learned from his mistakes, because he's made a couple of mistakes. I think he really needs to learn from strategy wise. Also, I want to see best things out of Berizzo, and like I was just saying, see some players that we haven't seen yet. I mean, you call them up every time, and you're not using them. We don't know how much they can get to the team. That's also something that I put on the coach on this list. But you know, these are just the first thoughts. We have so much ahead of us, right? The games are going to come up, or we're gonna talk a lot more about that. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts about this also, about the list.
I think he's definitely picked a squad where it's very similar. So to what Fede is saying, like, look at some of those players he's picking. He's picking Pires da Mota that could play instead of Morel or instead of Cubas. I mean, they're all quite similar players. And then you have Avalos has come in that would play similar to Sanabria, who didn't make it, or even to Lescano. I mean, he's not trying to he's not trying to have too many different styles of players, but having a lot of depth in that squad, because that suggests that I think he's going to stick with his style. And also when we see Gaston Jimenez called up again, I would say that's been the player that's been the biggest enigma for Paraguay, because he's wanted to use Jimenez as maybe the main creator, but he's also can be very slow in build up, and sometimes it hasn't worked for him. But he seems like he's keeping him in there. And it's also a player that you wouldn't say is in the greatest of form at the moment with Chicago Fire. So, but he, I think Berizzo is very stuck to his style, and he's going to keep, similar to setup to what we've seen before, but definitely more defensive. And one thing that's notable in this call up as well, we're talking, Fede mentioned a little bit about forwards, but also look in defense, there's not really a fullback there. There's not like a traditional fullback, right? You have Juan Escobar, who can play right back.
You got seven natural center backs on the team.
Yeah, there you go. Because Martinez as well, like we were saying, he could go to left back, or Junior Alonso could go to left back. But I think that's going to be the strategy, knowing that we're playing against Uruguay and Brazil, is to have maybe traditional centre backs playing at fullback to have a bit more defense, and definitely a lot more height in there, and be stronger from set pieces, especially against Uruguay, who are so well organized with that, and they have so many dangerous players, well drilled, organized team. And then that does give us maybe a little indication of that there's no kind of natural fullbacks. Maybe that's who he's going to be picking from the local players. So you can think of, just to name a couple, Beto Espinola, Arzamendia, maybe Ivan Torres, we don't know, because he's having a good year with Olimpia. And if he's called up someone like Avalos, he's also showing us it's never too late, because like you mentioned Roberto, he is 30 years old, Gabriel Avalos. He started in Libertad like many young players, but I don't think he really broke into Primera, and then he ended up playing in kind of Argentina and in not particularly big teams. And then he got his break in Independiente, but Independiente of Paraguay, of Campo Grande, in Primera, and then General Diaz. And from that, he kind of built up his stock, I guess, to be able to go to Chile. He played in Crucero del Norte, which is like a team in Argentina right by the border with Paraguay, very close to where he's born. He's born in the kind of Encarnacion region. So is a real journeyman player, but he's playing well with Argentinos. And what he said in an interview after his call-up is that the Copa Libertadores performances have really helped him. And I think that's what's called the eye of Berizzo, is that, if you've got a guy that's scoring goals in Libertadores, then that's pretty much the highest standard we can look for outside of Europe. So I think, that maybe convinced him. And with Tony Sanabria not coming, he had to make maybe a snap decision of who to bring, and he's gone with Gabriel Avalos, which is great news for him. But yeah, I think it's an interesting squad. I'm definitely want to see who the local players are as well to complement this, because then we'll kind of really get a feel of who he's thinking of, and if he's going to throw in any more surprises. You never know. It's a big squad, lots of players. And I think, Roberto, you were in the press conference, right? With Berizzo.
I was, yeah. And I asked, and I wanted to go to Maria on this one, because I think and I asked Berizzo, what would have been, this team, is this a side that you're looking to keep into the Copa Americas? Because I think we had mentioned off the air that, for a tournament like this and having all these games happen, what kind of side are we going to see? Are we going to see a team that is going to be different, or are they going to maintain the base? And I think Berizzo's, went for the latter. He said, no, we're going to maintain this base of players, which is why there had been so many players being called up. And Maria, I wanted to go on you on this one. Do you feel that's the right choice now heading into these? Because, looking at the games that Paraguay have, they're not easy games. And I think, it shows how the amount of players that they have at their disposal looks to see and prove that maybe they are looking ahead as to trying to be as competitive as they can be in the Copa America.
Well, you kind of read my mind, because looking at this list and looking at all these players, new players that have never been called, we'll still have to see if he's actually going to put them in their starting 11, or who knows if they actually play at all. But in my mind, I'm thinking, is Berizzo really gonna take his chances against Uruguay, Brazil? Like these are big games that they need to perform their best, and obviously there are some reasons. There are some players that couldn't come for other reasons, but which are probably good players that performed well as well last time. But we still have to see as well our local team, our local players that have to come in. But in my head, I'm like, is this the right choice? Is Berizzo playing with fire? Because to me, I'm kind of scared that he's not gonna have that set base of players like he said he does. To me, it feels like he's still testing it out. He's still trying to see what players should actually be the starting 11, the set starting 11 that we see with other big teams like Brazil, like Uruguay, Argentina. So that's what I'm kind of scared of. But it is also good at the same time because you have a big pool of players that you have options from. And in case someone gets hurt, you have players that have the experience, that are getting that experience and can take the position that players are not that players need to take over. In the case of the players that are not coming in, like Sanabria and so. But yeah, in that sense, it does kind of make me nervous. I want to see Berizzo's mind being set already, because we're coming closer and closer to Copa America. Hopefully it happens. We'll see about that one. And then the World Cup qualifiers, these two next games are humongous. And we are also coming close to the World Cup, and we need to qualify. And so, but yeah, that's my thoughts in that sense. Other than that, I just hope he makes the right decisions.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing when you think about it. And Fed, I'll go to you on this one actually, because you look at this side, and I think it's a good choice of words that you use, Maria, playing with fire, because obviously we'll talk about this game in the next few weeks when the games happen between Uruguay and Brazil. But are they actually looking for something as if they want to get the result? Because I'm not saying here, okay, if they don't get 0 points out of these games, it's not the end of the world because of looking at the opponents. But it could be as if, though, they are trying to hold back a bit more. And obviously you have to go game by game, but they are trying to sit back a bit more and try to be more defensive, and then try to utilize all their powers, all their strength in the Copa America. I don't know. It seems like a weird decision, but I just wanted to make sure maybe that's something that you agree on.
Yeah, but we've actually seen this already from Berizzo. The times that we played against Argentina, the times that we played against Brazil in that Copa America, the last time around, I mean, we saw the defensive style. I mean, Berizzo always talks that he wants the ball, he wants the possession, he wants an offensive team, a 4-3-3, but that, against these big teams, it usually doesn't go out that way. And I actually think it's actually very smart of him to pick these kind of players, and he's building around that. I think step by step, game by game, I think the players are getting his idea. I think you even hear from them that they're actually feeling more comfortable with Berizzo and the whole idea of them having more the ball, of having of being a team where their stars can actually become important, like Angel Romero, like Almirón. I mean, these players have to be constant. These players have to play more and more games together. So you don't have friendlies right now. You can't play friendlies. So the only real moment you're gonna have with the players, at least a month to work with them, is now. It's Copa America. When you get them for the qualifiers, you only get them for a couple of days, and they usually come tired from the flight, and you can't usually practice a lot of tactical stuff. And it's just mainly it's just talking to the players. So I think this time in Copa America, this time in Argentina, this whole month that they're going to have ahead of them is going to be vital. It's going to be very important for Berizzo. I think this is the time where Berizzo can actually put his idea and make the team perfect, which I think is where they need to be right now. I mean, we're just 1 year and a couple of months away from the World Cup. If you want to make it there, you need to have your team built up already, and you need to have the players responding out of what you want from them. I think he's getting that little by little, like I was just saying, and I think this Copa America is going to be very important. I would have done something different. I said it on the last episode. I would have loved to see more young players on this squad, which I think are the future of the national team. I'm talking about a lot of players which I see in this national league that I see on the youth Albirroja, also the under 20. I see a lot of good players that could probably already be there, just being on the practice, being on the squad. But Berizzo's not thinking about that. Berizzo's thinking about right now, and Berizzo's thinking about the next World Cup. That's why he's calling players like Avalos, who's 30 years old, but the World Cup is just next year. So if he stays hot, now he knows that the national team is there for him. So these guys know that they just have to keep their level up, because Berizzo has them on the radar. Like, there's a lot of players that know that Berizzo doesn't have them on the radar, and we can mention some of them that were probably looking at the list lately to see if their name was there, and they're kind of disappointed that they're not being called up. There's always those kind of players also, but Berizzo's making up his mind. I think he's getting around his idea, this Copa America, these next 4 games, because it's 2 before the Copa America and 2 after the Copa America that are coming up. These are a lot of games that he's going to have to take advantage of. He's going to need to make this team play like he wants it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's vital, and I think the time for experimenting is over. I think now it's the time to really focus on maintaining your base. And I mean, he's had 50 players used in the last 2 years, something like that. But now I think because all these games are happening, all these competitive games are happening so quickly, now is the time to really start looking at your players and trying to build the side that you want for the Copa America and of course for the World Cup qualifier. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. We'll obviously talk about it next week when we preview both the games against Uruguay and Brazil, and we get the whole squad. Yes, I know, we're all excited. I can't wait for that as well. But we will mention that next week. So we'll switch gears and talk about what's going on with the local teams. Obviously, we do have Libertadores and Sudamericana closing off their group stage action this week. We have teams that are still in position to qualify. We obviously will want to go first to the Libertadores, where Olimpia and Cerro Porteño are still in positions to qualify, despite both of them getting losses at home to Brazilian sides. Unfortunately, we saw Olimpia lose in the last few minutes to Internacional, a goal from Yuri Alberto in the 83rd minute. And we saw Cerro Porteño lose a heartbreaker in the 90th minute from a goal from Keno against Atlético Mineiro at the Nueva Olla. But heading into the final day, Cerro at least are assured of going into the Sudamericana, but I'm sure that they are now heading into this game against América de Cali, where they know that they have to win or get a draw as well. That's their best chance that they can do it, to head into the round of 16 of the Copa Libertadores. Whereas Olimpia, they need to get this win and also hope that Inter can do a favor against Always Ready. So, guys, I mean, I will go straight up, honestly, because I think what we've seen all this tournament long, we've made the predictions beforehand, but now I think it's time to really start. And Ralph, I'll go to you on this one first. Looking at what we saw from Cerro, looking at what we saw with Olimpia, do you still see both these sides making it into the round of 16?
Not both of them. I see Cerro having a better chance. Cerro's problem has been scoring. They've actually the only goals they scored from open play were against América de Cali in the first game. Then they had the 0-0 with La Guaira. They didn't score against Atlético Mineiro. They beat La Guaira, but it was a penalty. So they've really struggled scoring. But thankfully for Chiquiasi, they don't need to score tomorrow. What they need to do is not concede, because a draw would send them through. And América de Cali actually have been probably the worst team defensively in that group. In Cerro's group, I think they've conceded in every game they've played. Possibly they got a 0-0 draw with La Guaira, I can't remember. But they've been not playing very well. actually, since Cerro beat América de Cali, they didn't win another game until last week against La Guaira, and that's including the local league. I mean, they're just not playing very well. So probably Cerro Porteño will be able to do it, but they're missing one key player, which is Matias Villasanti. He picked up his third yellow card, which is quite almost impossible, but he picked up 3 yellow cards in his first 5 games of the group stage. So he's actually out for tomorrow. So that's a difficult position to fill. Probably we've spoken before about his partnership with Lucena, how important it is. And when one is missing, they can often struggle. But I think, with Cerro not having that kind of necessity to score a goal, I think they'll feel more comfortable tomorrow. Then for Olimpia, I don't think they can do it, because Olimpia, it's not that they need to win. They need to win by 4 goals against Táchira because of the goal difference. And I haven't checked this, but I was trying to see the last time they won Libertadores game by a 4-goal margin. I don't know. I know they beat Caracas 5-0 once in 1995 or something like that. But I mean, this recent team, I can't think of them like blowing away a team like this, and especially not Táchira, who are playing very well. So I think for Olimpia, it's a very different situation. I think Olimpia, if they can get a win, which in itself could be difficult, but if they can get a win, they should hopefully get that Sudamericana place. And I think what part of the debate, I don't know what the other guys think, but part of the debate is maybe it's better for Olimpia actually to be in the Sudamericana than the Libertadores, because, some people are saying, if you're in the Libertadores, you're just going to get knocked out by a big Brazilian team. And if you're in the Sudamericana, maybe you can go deep and in the tournament and do something. I don't know what Maria thinks about that for Olimpia.
No, you're totally right, Ralph, because they definitely they're not doing well. They're not doing well in Libertadores. What they should have done, what they should be doing this week against Táchira, they did it against Nacional. So maybe that helps them a little bit. Maybe they get to play the same. I'm not sure if Nacional and Táchira are kind of similar teams, the way their style, but it's best if they do the Sudamericana for now. Get some wins there, probably win it, hopefully. We'll see, but it's been a while that they played far enough into an international competition that their best chances is to do it in the Sudamericana, and they definitely can do it. Hopefully, if they make the necessary adjustments and get all their other players in good spirits, like I always talk about, they can do it. But yeah, I don't think they can go through this time. I don't think they'll win it against Táchira. They lost last time around against this team. It was a close game. I think it was something like 3-2. I think I remember correctly. So they were very shocked by Táchira. Who knows? Also they could figure out their style that they were playing against with Táchira, and they can turn it around and do good in this game against Táchira. But yeah, hopefully Sudamericana is a better competition for them. But that's all I can say about that.
Oh, you guys are way too negative on this. I'm going to go the other way then. I'm going to say both of them are going to go through. I'm going to say Olimpia is going to get this win. They need 4 goals. I'm just going to remember that to people. They need to score 4 goals on this Táchira. And if you don't score 4 goals on a Venezuelan team, you got nothing to do on Libertadores. Then you just got to get yourself in Sudamericana or get yourself out of this competition. Olimpia is going to have to earn it, obviously, but I do think some players are picking it up. Dervis Gonzalez has been playing on the league lately. He's important also to score. Isidro Pita had a terrible game the other day in the local league, but ended up scoring also. So you got strikers that can come in the game and hopefully give you a hand, because you're going to need that. I mean, I don't think you're going to score 4 goals on the first half. It's going to take you probably the whole game to do that, right? You're going to have to work for it. But I do think the defense is coming around with Saul Salcedo, with Luis Cáceres back there. I think it looks solid now. So I think they're going to be well. They're going to be well back there, and it's just a matter of their strikers having a good day and taking the advantage that they're gonna, and take advantage of the situations that they're gonna get, because I do think Olimpia is gonna leave it all out there. I mean, they need to do it. I mean, this is the game they need to show their fans, and even some players need to show the president that they are in Olimpia and that they want to stay in this club. And some players might be playing their last game also, just because this is going to be the last game of the group stage. And some players look like they are waving themselves goodbye to the fans already. You know, they've been playing in Olimpia for a while. I'm talking like Camacho. There's a couple of players that are on the last transfer window. It was already like they were going to leave, and it might happen now at the half of the year. So it could be a good bad game for some of them, and it could be a special one. And a lot of them are going to play maybe for Roque also, who hasn't been available in this whole first semester, right? And they probably want to see their best player in the second semester at the end of the year. I think they're going to play for him also. It's going to be a very special game for Olimpia. And Cerro, I think they're going to cruise by it. I think they're not going to have any problems. I mean, the last time they played against America de Cali, they were really smart about it. And yeah, I do think they are having some trouble, especially on the creative end in midfield. I want to see so much more out of Aquino. But, you know, the 2 best players from last year, from 2021, one was from Olimpia and the other one was from Cerro Porteño. One was Claudio Aquino. He's in a really bad level right now. And the other one was Jorge Recalde, the striker from Olimpia. You know, these guys are not scoring. They're not making any difference in their teams lately. If one of these 2 guys hopefully step up on this last game, it could be very important for their teams also.
100%. It'll be a very tight, I would say, week. Obviously, I personally think, and we'll have to disagree with you, Fede, that Olimpia will win this game, but I don't think they'll make it enough to qualify outside of the round of 16. I think they will go into the Sudamericana, which could indeed help them. Obviously, the opponent that they will have are, of course, no easy task as well, as we've seen in this competition. And I think Cerro Porteño also, you know, coming in, obviously a lot of drama has been going on with this side with unpaid wages. That's not just happening to them, to a lot of teams in Paraguay, actually. But I think in a game like this, where they need to show who they are and what they really want in this competition, that they will go out and get the win. And I personally think that they will qualify to the round of 16, which of course is the expectation for them ever since they started this competition. Also want to mention that Libertad are playing in the Copa Sudamericana, and you know, they are still in a chance to qualify. They have to beat an already eliminated Palestino to head into the round of 16. River Plate are actually still in with a chance, guys. River Plate actually defeated Peñarol at the Defensores del Chaco in a last-minute winner by Luis Neri Caballero, meaning that if they can only get a result against Corinthians, and already eliminated Corinthians, and hoping that Peñarol, Sport Huancayo can do a favor to to them against Peñarol, that River Plate can indeed qualify. It's a tough task. I don't think it'll happen, unfortunately. I think we will see Libertad qualify. I don't think River Plate have it in there, despite having a wonderful season. I think exceeding expectations, holding on to Corinthians, beating Peñarol. I think that's a remarkable achievement to have for El Quelito, as we like to say in Paraguay. So that's how I personally think. And yeah, I think we are very much excited about what's going on. But before we close it out, guys, we do mention at the start of the show, even though we did predict it last week, Libertad officially are champions of the 2021 Apertura. Daniel Llanero wins his league title with a third different team, with Guarani, with Olimpia, and now with Libertad. I mean, Rolf, that is a remarkable achievement for any manager to do in Paraguay. Not easy, but I think at the end of the day, despite the slow start that they had, I think they're the champions.
Yeah, it's an incredible achievement because it's never been done before in the history of Paraguayan football. So you're going back over 100 years. No coach has ever managed to win with 3 different teams. You have some big names in there that have done it with 2. Chiquiaces won it with Cerro and Olimpia. Tata Martino did it with Libertad and Cerro. Sergio Markarian, who ended up being, the coach of the national team. He was very close, actually. He did it with Cerro, I think, Olimpia, and then he left Libertad just before Tata Martino came in. So he almost won it. He almost did what Garnero did, but he left just before. Because that was in the old system when if you won the Apertura, you won champion. You had to then win the playoff final. But this is, huge by Garnero if we're talking about some of those names, and he's won 6 titles. Only Aurelio Gonzalez and Luis Cubilla have won more titles as coaches, and there's some huge names. Aurelio Gonzalez, by the way, is we're going back to kind of the 50s. He was the manager of Paraguay in the 1958 World Cup. But that guy has a great story. He fought in the Chaco War and all this kind of stuff. So for another time, we can talk about him. And Luis Cubilla, I think everybody knows because of his great success with Olimpia, the Uruguayan manager who, won the Libertadores and those 8 titles. He won at different points as well. It wasn't like 8 in a row, one generation. He was building up new teams, new generations. So Garnero's on that list, and
he needed to save his spot, Ralph. After leaving Libertadores the way he did, this is the only thing he could do at this semester. He needed to win the Apertura to save his spot and look forward to the rest of the year. Libertad has put in a lot of money into trying to win the league. We're talking about before Garnero was Ramon Diaz. That was a very expensive coach Libertad had before him. So Libertad was trying to win it lately. And I think a lot of people weren't waiting for Garnero to come back to Paraguay the last time he left, but mainly because he had won everything with Olimpia. So it looked like he was going to take the next step on his career, maybe manage in Argentina, maybe manage in Brazil, like a lot of them are doing. A lot of Argentinian managers, but he came back. Why did he come back? Because he has this roster that is just full of stars and full of talent, and obviously he was one of the candidates this year around.
Yeah, and I think Maria mentioned it as well. Winning the league means they're straight into the group stage of the Libertadores, which is so big. So he doesn't have to. Maybe he could have blamed that he came in and he had to try and guide them through the qualifying rounds, that kind of thing. And now it's like, okay, this is my team. I've done it. And then, that's it. They're in the group stage. So at least he knows he's guaranteed 6 games. And as he's proved, he's kind of better over a long period than those one-on-one knockouts. But yeah, really, really good for Libertad. And for me, it just makes the Clausura so exciting now, because now Olimpia and Cerro, one of them have to win the Clausura, thinking again of Libertadores. So, you're going to see those 2 rivals really going ahead. In this case, both Olimpia and Cerro kind of towards the end, I don't think they were going for it 100% because they wanted to focus on Libertadores. But I would say, this time, at this point in the Clausura season, so like November, December, they're going to be, full out going for
it.
But
they could still potentially juggle both competitions as well.
Depending how far they get. But I think the reality is, maybe would they get past last 16? Maybe it could happen. But I can see them both going for this all out. And Cerro, in their case, have to find some money from somewhere, right, to launch a challenge.
I just want to say, just to end up the whole league chapter, the rest made it way too easy on Libertad on these last games. Nacional couldn't take it to the last game, and Cerro Porteño, Olimpia, they just they lost very important games. Obviously, Cerro Porteño is going to talk about the refs because it happened on a key game also for them that they ended up losing, but. I think Olimpia and Cerro Porteño weren't as strong as other tournaments to see the best out of Libertad, and Libertad, just with what they had and just building it up during the tournament, it was just more than enough, but mainly because the other teams just didn't live up to expectations. Nacional was a surprise. Guarani was even in there. These weren't the teams that you weren't actually waiting for it to fight. You were actually waiting to see a big, strong Olimpia side. You were waiting to see a strong Cerro Porteño, the one that was playing best football last year, and you just didn't get that out of them most of the time this tournament.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it'll be Very interesting to see how both these sides, Olimpia and Cerro, go into it now with the added pressure that knowing that one of them, have to go into the group stage of the Libertadores next year. Otherwise, they could indeed go into that playoff spot that hurted Libertad in the long run, but of course could affect them as well and help them. But it'll be interesting. I think certainly it was also, but also we have to mention it was a really fun way that we saw this entire league. We saw it compete all the way to the end, how all these teams were getting different results, how it was changing from the top every week. I think that was incredible to see. I think it was really great. We didn't see a team blow everyone out of the water with a huge point advantage heading into this part of the season. I think it's great that we saw that kind of fight from all these teams and that kind of willingness as well, that they wanted to go for this league title and actually get something. So fingers crossed that we can definitely see it in the Clausura this in a couple months as well. So guys, I think I have nothing left to mention. I mean, obviously we talked a lot between Albirroja, Libertadores, Sudamericana, and Libertad winning. So I think it's the perfect way to close off this show. So as always, for myself, Roberto Rojas, for Fede Perez, for Maria Britos, and for Ralph Hanna, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Guarani Vision. See you soon.